So for today's video, I wanted to kind of continue the conversation we started with that video I put out a week or so ago, the games I'm looking forward to the most in 2023, because there's a lot more to talk about. And January is kind of slow right now. We're all kind of sitting here waiting for Forspoken and Dead Space Remake to show up. So for the time being, there's definitely a lot more to talk about. What I did here was I went to the comments of that previous video. I looked at your comments, and you guys were talking about games that you were looking forward to, and I saw a lot of them. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. So this is a part two. There's more stuff to talk about, not only just games, but things in gaming. So let's just jump in. The first thing, the big omission from the last list, because I was trying to focus on games that had hard release dates. This list, not so much. And RoboCop Rogue City, well, it doesn't have a full release date. Seems like it might be releasing this year. And I love RoboCop. I have talked about that on the channel, but probably for the hardcore heads, I haven't talked about it in a long time, but RoboCop is one of my favorite things ever. The original movie is just incredible, top to bottom. It's everything I like in movies, action, sci-fi, all that shit. And I've been very excited for RoboCop Rogue City since it was announced. I made a video about it when it was announced because specifically it's from the people behind Terminator Resistance, which was a game that kind of understood the source material and made a pretty okay game. Like, I think it was a good stepping stone, and I think they could knock it out in the park with RoboCop because, like, if you understand that material, there's really something there. Also, if you don't understand the material and you just make a game where you are Alex Murphy just shooting guys, that's cool too. RoboCop has a good video game history. One of my favorite games back in the day was the original NES RoboCop game. It was tight. I learned as an adult that the arcade version was technically better. I had never really touched it. But still, RoboCop video games, it's a match made in heaven. I hope this one really works out, and I hope we see it this year. One that I took from the comments that a lot of you guys were talking about was Redfall. Redfall, for me, I really like the setting. I like spooky Halloween type games, but I wasn't really totally looking forward to this one just because I like Arcane's regular style of games. I think Dishonored is still their best stuff. But when I read a more recent interview that kind of described more of the game and they pitched it not as their Left 4 Dead, which I kind of assume that's kind of what it was, they said it's more like an open, like a Far Cry type of thing, but the Arcane spin on it, which sounds weird, but I was like, okay, all right. Okay, so we'll see. I think really what I'm holding on to the most for this game is the setting. I really just like the vibe and look of that more than anything. The characters seemed like just new, forgettable, 4-player video game cooperative characters that we see in every game, but it's Arcane. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and give it a shot. Oh, and the one thing I didn't talk about on the other list, Alan Wake 2 is apparently slated for 2023. I totally missed that, but that's pretty awesome. If we get to play that this year, that is great. Alan Wake, the original one, is just a type of game I really dig. You know, it's a straightforward, good narrative adventure, and it's from Remedy. I love Remedy from Max Payne 1. I freaking love those guys. Control was, I'm pretty sure, my game of the year. The year it dropped. And that little tease, that little Alan Wake tease, that was pretty cool. He kind of like looked like Jared Leto in the teaser. I know it's not Jared Leto. I know it's the actual actor, but that was kind of funny. I really am curious to see how hard they go on this one in terms of how hard they go on the horror aspects, but also just how trippy and weird and Remedy they can take it, because they're really getting a second lease on life with this property. They had kicked around an Alan Wake 2 back in the day and never really got it anywhere. So I'm glad that we're getting a second chance at seeing something from it. Another one that you guys mentioned in the comments a lot was Sea of Stars. And this one actually has been on my radar since we talked about it in a couple of Game Ranks videos, like for top 10 roundup videos. And I was like, holy shit, this looks tight. That was my reaction. This just seems like one of those love letter SNES JRPGs with turn-based combats, little parties, mini games, but really adventuring around in seemingly a pretty beautiful world. I love the sprites here. I love the look of the enemies, specifically the bosses that we've seen. It just seems like a good version of that thing we see in some of these kind of retro style games, where it is so much a love letter and on the surface like a replication of those original things, but with everything we've learned in video game development and technology backing it up. This one just looks gorgeous. It looks like it just might scratch an itch. I have it wish listed on Steam. Probably gonna try and play it on Steam Deck. It just seems like that type of thing for me. So yeah. Like a Dragon Ishin is also big because I have wanted to check this out. When I heard about it existing in Japan, like a feudal Japan spin on Yakuza with the Yakuza characters, I was like, holy shit, I need that. And now we're getting that. And that's really it. There's not too much to say about that other than that, like, have you seen the trailer? It looks awesome. I love these games for all that they are, for when they're serious, for when they're stupid, when they're just great brawler beat 'em up games, when they're drama, soap operas. Like, they're just, there's a little bit of everything there that just really hits with me specifically. Also, in terms of just gaming things, Xbox in general, you know, as a person who talks about the news every Friday on Game Ranks and on the podcast and stuff like that, I'm just always looking for like stuff to talk about, man. And Xbox has had stuff. They've been adding games to Game Pass. They've been supporting a lot of third-party games. They've had some things here and there, but like a lot of people have been waiting for those big heavy-hitting games, those big headliner Xbox first-party games, you know, the ones that they've announced and also whatever else they got, whether it's Avowed, Fable, blah, 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 blah. They've been talking up the fact that 2023 is going to be the year where we finally start to see some of that stuff, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they got. It's not necessarily like a console war thing where I'm like, I got an Xbox, where are the games? Like, it seems like under the Xbox banner, there's something bubbling where like there will be a bunch more games to talk about. So I hope that starts to roll out in 2023 because they spent a lot of money on developers and studios. So I'd like to see some of that. Now, before we keep going, big thanks to Factor for sponsoring this video and for feeding me. Factor delivers fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals right to your doorstep. Me personally, as somebody who works pretty much 24/7, you've probably seen it because of my eyes, Factor has been a lifesaver. When I've been grinding on some of my longer projects, not having to worry about some meals has been clutch. Factor meals show up and they're fresh, nutritious, they taste good, and I can just heat them up in the microwave in minutes. This way I'm not losing time shopping for groceries or meal prepping, I'm just boom, good to go. 2023 goals means new year, new me, and less splurging on last-minute fast food lunch during the day. I'm way better off now. They offer keto, calorie smart, chef's choice, and vegan and veggie options, which include seafood, meat, and plant-based meals. So there's a lot of choices for ways to eat right and to feel good. So, want to check it out? Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code ONJAKE60 to get 60% off your first Factor box. Once again, that's factor75.com. You can click it, use code ONJAKE60 to save, and big thanks to Factor for sponsoring this video. Greedfall 2 is dropping this year. Another one I missed. Thank you. I think only like one of you mentioned this in the comments, but shout out to you. I liked the first Greedfall a lot. It lost steam towards the end, but I just love the whole thing. Again, I'm going to bring up Fable. I'm a Fable guy. It's what I do. But really, what they did with that game was pretty cool. I like that whole new world type of thing. I really like the fantasy elements. I also like that studio and the RPGs they build, where I've been reviewing their games for a long time and they've kind of been shitty and getting better and better. So it's nice to see. And with Greedfall 2, especially with the success of Greedfall, I'm hoping that they can really go balls to the wall on it. They're changing it up, it seems like, instead of like you being the colonial people going to colonize the new world, you are a native person from the new world going over to the old world with cities and stuff. So I'm really curious to see what that is because they have kind of like a fantasy spin on that history. They could do a lot. Also, we know technically Hollow Knight Silksong is this year, the follow-up to the Hollow Knight, which I really liked. I don't think I made a video or anything about it because I'm bad at video games and it took me a really long time to beat it, like months and months and months. So I was behind the ball on it, but it is a damn good game. The mood, the atmosphere is tight, and everybody's been waiting for Silksong forever. I like that it got shown off at that event. I don't remember what it was, but the event showed Silksong, and it was the only thing in that whole event to not have a release window. We know it's 2023, but that's it. Another thing is PlayStation VR 2. I have mine pre-ordered. I'm looking forward to checking that out, specifically really for the tech itself. There's no killer app for it for me that I'm dying to play. The Horizon thing does look pretty cool. That'll probably be like one of the first real things I jump into for it, but I just want to see the tech. I really liked Sony's spin on VR. As a VR person, I know I don't talk about it enough here. It's hard to sometimes, but as a VR enthusiast, I really like seeing Sony's take on VR hardware in terms of balancing tech specs and affordability, even just from build quality and the materials used and everything. I just thought it was like a pretty comfortable, well-made, but affordable headset. And with the technology rapidly changing, the optics changing, everything, I'm curious to see that headset, which they have been talking about a lot, and also the control inputs. I just want to see how it really feels. I think there's more that they can do in terms of like bulking up VR game development on their end, but they are going to have a slate of titles. So I'm just curious to see how it goes this time around. The original PSVR was a sleeper, like, you know, just because you haven't touched it or you don't know anybody who has, there's a lot of people out there that are actually into it. So I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm hoping PSVR 2 is a good thing. Another one that a couple of you mentioned is the Plucky Squire. This actually was one that I wasn't really too aware of. I knew the name. I forgot what it was. When all of you guys mentioned it in comments, I looked it up and I was like, oh, holy shit. Yeah, this is my type of thing in terms of like kind of 2D, quirky, experimental adventures. You guys know I've talked how many times I just like games that kind of like are a pretty limited plane of how you're playing, but also ones that really take it to a different and creative level. There was that game on consoles and PC, The Pedestrian, that kind of did that. It was like where you were a street sign figure, but you would kind of walk around. It was really, really creative. Ultimately, it was a little more puzzle oriented and like it didn't totally hit with me, but I still like those types of things and what they attempt. And the Plucky Squire seems like it's that type of thing, but like on crack, with like a storybook type of thing, but you're jumping to all different types of mediums and physical planes. And I always like what Devolver Digital publishes, like what they pick and what they put out. Obviously, I'm wearing a jacket right now with their logo on it, but for real. Now, another one a lot of you guys mentioned is Baldur's Gate 3. Now, I jumped into this. I played like a early developer build back in the day, and then we jumped into it for a Game Ranks video when early access was first available, like when they were asking for your money and you could play it or play some of it. We checked it out and I did really like it, but now this year it's getting like the big full-fledged release, and it's been so long since I touched it with that early access. It's got to be drastically different and with way more stuff, and it was already pretty good. So I think this might be the year where I dive hardcore into one of these types of RPGs. It's been a minute. It's been like a really long time, like Divinity, Original Sin, stuff like that. Like it's been a minute, and I just look at Baldur's Gate 3 now finally releasing, and I'm like, all right, this might be the one to go balls deep within. But again, going back to like those like 2.5D, like more linear adventure type games, replaced. This one looks absolutely sick. This one is slated as coming soon. People are thinking it's 2023, and it's got like a kind of Blade Runner, alternate 1980s future type aesthetic, which I'm very much about. I'm a cornball. I'm a total cheeseball. You give me anything with like cool neon lights or robots or future cars that kind of look like DeLoreans, and I'm about it. But replaced spin on it looks kind of distinct and unique from that type of stuff, which is becoming like a trope. And that's what really caught my eye. I'm curious to see just like the mood and atmosphere here, and the way like combat and getting around and kind of platforming will work. It just seems like a wild ride. I love these types of games, even if they're only a couple of hours. If they're well constructed and well paced, I am 100% in. I've replayed Inside a lot, but the kind of sub-pixelated style here is just really cool. So really, I think of the list, that's the other stuff I'm really looking forward to in 2023, at least stuff that has kind of a release date. There's probably going to be a lot more surprises in 2023 as more games get announced. Like I said, Xbox still has to announce stuff. Sony probably has some announcements in the pipeline at some point. Whether they come 2023 or not, I don't know, but there's more. But as of right now, of stuff we know or roughly know, that's it. Also, just love another good excuse to talk about video games. That's all I'm doing here. I love video games and I want to talk about them. So if you get what I'm trying to do, you know my spiel. Clicking the like button helps me. I'm just talking about what I love. So thank you guys for being here, listening to me ramble for this long. Subscribe because video games, pizza's on me.